Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work, only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NACDI. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting NACDI.org. Hey, this is Robert Pilot. The Minnesota State Fair is more than food on a stick. It's a chance to celebrate Native culture and voices. On August 25th, hear the Red Lake Singers and Emizaska Drum Group during Mental Health Awareness at Dan Patch Park. On August 27th, meet Native authors like Roxanne B2B Nokwe Gold and Stacy Lola Druyard, and visit the Common Table and learn how Indigenous foodways are shaping Minnesota's future. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 59. Friday sunny with a high near 78. And Saturday partly cloudy with a high near 77.
State Fair savings are here at Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. Save $25 on tickets to select performances of Grease, White Christmas, and Guys and Dolls. Tickets and details at chanhassendt.com/fair25.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, any cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events. And as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. I asked her friend, Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute, to come on right away because we have a lot to talk about and a lot to hash out. Yesterday was an amazing show with Dr. Stately and Arvina Martin, and I don't expect any different here from our friend Robert Lilligren. Very serious things going on, Robert. Pinigigi, thank you so much.
Yeah, bonjour, Robert. Thanks for having me. Like you said, a lot of going on. It's very heavy days here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking directly about, the shooting of young ones, at Annunciation Catholic School here in Minneapolis. And it's kind of close to the corridor over there. There's people that aren't that far away from the Franklin Avenue corridor, and I'm sure it's affected people that you know and people that you know that have little ones going to school this year.
Yeah, it's just been it's very close, right? It's just about maybe a mile or so away from my house, just south of my house. And I'm guessing your listeners all know, but for those who don't, a shooter shot through windows of a church next to a Catholic school where the student body was at mass for the beginning of the year and shot, I think, 19 people, most of them children, 2 of them shot to death. And we're just still trying to respond here, and it's impacted the whole community. And I know these instances, these school shootings happen in a lot of communities, way too many communities. This is the closest to home something like this has been to me, and really to see the impact broadly across the community, it's been something, and everybody is impacted. I'm impacted. It pulls out so much trauma, and you're right. It's close to home. Many of us have some kind of connection to the student body there. A friend, for example, a friend of mine had 2 nieces that were in the church when the shooting happened, and they are physically okay. Of course, there'll be emotional fallout, trauma fallout for their whole lives, I'm sure, but it does feel very close, and it has really impacted the entire metropolitan community here.
Yeah, it's interesting watching and looking at what's going across my social media. There was a cartoon that somebody put up that God was at or the creator, or however you want to look at it, was at the pearly gates, and 3 little kids were there coming to there. And he said, God said to the children, they just love their guns more. And it just really, it really seems that way.
It does. And I think there's been more than one mass shooting a day in this country this year. And, clearly we care more for guns than we do for our people, our neighbors, and especially our children. And it's beyond explanation when something like this happens, and you're anywhere but in our communities here, but it has impact. And I would say, often we hear from, especially Second Amendment people, pro-gun people, it's not the guns, it's the people. Well, it's the guns. Let's just agree with that. And and we hear, thoughts and prayers to the victims, to the families, to those impacted. Well, these kids were literally praying when they were shot. And so it's this whole thoughts and prayers kind of framework doesn't really hold water here, and action is what is called for. And are we gonna be bold enough this time to take action to limit access to guns to people who may be planning to do something like this, or we need some kind of sensible gun control? And it's yet to be seen how we respond here.
Were you a city council member during Sandy Hook? Or am I mixing up the timeline?
No, I was. Yeah. So I served on the Minneapolis City Council, and Sandy Hook, which is a particularly horrible situation, is a prime example, right?
Right.
I'm trying to remember how many children died in Sandy Hook.
I know, but just to, as you're looking that up, it's just, what you said earlier, about they were literally praying. We need, more than sympathy. We need change. And I believe a lot of people are really locally talking about that. And I know Klobuchar was on MSNBC talking about it this morning. And our friend Peggy was at the memorial, and it's just so sad being a former high school teacher, and just Robert, just the trauma of going over the drills, doing those 3 times a year.
Right. Right. No, yeah. So at Sandy Hook, 26 people were shot dead, 20 children, elementary school children. And at that time, I remember thinking, like you said, I was serving on the Minneapolis City Council at the time. And I remember thinking, oh, now something will change, right? This is so horrific. Something will change. And of course, nothing changed. And so we continue to see these kinds of mass shootings, especially children, and, as you point out, the trauma of experiencing it, yes, ouch, but then just having to live in this, and as parents are sending their kids back to school right now, how do you even do that? How do you assure your children that they're going to be safe when they're in school? And I don't know how. I mean, I don't have an answer here. I'm just asking a question. And I think I really value your perspective as an educator. And when you see these drills, and some of them, I know there's been concern that some of them get very realistic, right? These active shooter drills, and that's traumatizing our young ones, and just going through the motions of it. And I participated in active shooter trainings before, and they can be really brutal and really triggering. And so what is the larger solution? And I don't have answers here, although I know that easy access to guns by people who shouldn't have them in their hands is part of the problem.
Yeah, Robert, it's the big part, and we're going to take a break here in about a minute. But one of the things I want to talk about too is that this church, Catholic Church, reinforced their security and going through. And we're talking a little bit about drills. They didn't seem to help, and that's the really big sad thing too.
Right, they did bulletproofing on the school and things like that, but if someone is determined to cause harm, like this shooter was, they found a way. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. And so how do we prepare? How do we prevent this? Huge questions.
Hey, we're here with our friend Robert Lilligren. This is Native Roots Radio, and we're talking about, action and what's happening in our community here in Minnesota. And this is a special edition of Native Roots Radio. We're going to be right back. Again, this is Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NACDI. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting NACDI.org.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work, only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market, where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're with our friend Robert Lilligren, Native American Community Development Institute, a White Earth citizen, Ojibwe, that comes on every week and talks sense to us, and we talk politically and what their organization's doing. But today it's a kind of a bleak day, but I want to change the tone just for 1 second, but it's also serious. Love the Onion. I followed the Onion, and they posted no way to prevent this. It says only one nation where this regularly happens. You know, we talk about people, other nations taking care of this and situation, and we seem to be dragging our feet and ask for change, and we're not getting it.
Right. Well, as you said, obviously we love our guns more than we love our children. Statement of fact, right here in the U.S. and can we change this? And I appreciate the Onion's, sort of gallows humor here, but that's a fact. There are ways to prevent this, right? I mean, here these firearms that were used in the shooting of the children and 3 adults who were in worship when they were shot was preventable, right? These guns were purchased legally, which makes it more challenging. But this easy access to firearms results in this. And I remember years ago, Robert, decades ago, when we were still having the same conversation about gun violence, exact same conversation. And I remember my position was, and I guess still is, if you make access to guns very easy, this is what happens. These are firearms that are only designed to kill people, to hurt people, to wound people, right? And so if you put those in the hands of other people, this is what's going to happen. And I will note for listeners from outside the Twin Cities area, this is coming on the heels of a series of shootings over very few days, or what now, I don't want to misquote, but I think four people have been killed in gun violence over just 3 days. And 2 of them now have been mass shootings. And so it gets really hard. And you talk about hitting close to home, the shooting were one fatal shooting. I think 7 people were injured in South Minneapolis, very near Lake Street. For those who know Minneapolis, that was just half a block from where I lived for 36 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not happening somewhere else. It's happening right here, and it's really taking its toll. I mean,
Robert, thanks for bringing that up too. We talked about that yesterday. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday too, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is, can you imagine being at HCMC for those 4 days and what you're seeing? Just the trauma that our health workers are going through too.
I am very sympathetic, and no, I can't imagine what that means. And Minneapolis is a fairly small community, right? And so I'm guessing some of these emergency responders, these medical folks, have personal connections to some of the victims or some of the places or the institutions that these shootings are happening. And so that's part of the response as well. And yesterday when we were watching the fallout from this and experiencing it, I mean, so many people, I could see how they were impacted. I know how I was impacted, still impacted today. I'm very down. Yesterday, I just didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to kind of sit and grieve. And so you just see the reverberating impacts of something like this. This is our community. And so and I'm much more removed. I'm not an educator. I'm not a parent. I'm not a first responder. I'm not a medical responder. But, if I'm impacted like this, how much more traumatized are other people within our community who are more closely impacted?
Absolutely. I feel the emotion, and I was watching the news as this was unraveling, and our people that do the news here in the Twin Cities, we're not holding it together, and I don't blame them, because they're human too. It's just it's we've driven by this area. We know these people.
Oh
We
yeah.
know how close it is. You look at the map and you go, "Oh my goodness," Uh, it's just it's breathtaking in not a good way. And
Right.
yesterday's show, I kind of listened to a little bit of it. I was really in a funk, and you could really
Yeah.
tell in my voice.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Robert. Thanks. And I give you tons of credit for continuing to do what you do in these difficult times. And yeah, it's not remote. It's like I said, it's about a mile south of where I'm sitting right now, maybe a little more. I've been by there 1,000 times, and very familiar. And yesterday I just went through our day, had my out in the community and things, but people really were processing. People were really hit hard, and it's not the first time that we've had to deal with this. As one of your listeners put in, there's been 500 mass shootings in the U.S. This year, so it's not the first time. But this one, I don't know, it's just hitting different. It's just making it heavy. You said in a funk, right? And everyone seems to be in a funk. And yesterday, especially, my impulse was to just stay home, shut down. I thought, nope, this is my act of what? Not defiance, but act of normalcy. Try not to normalize, these kinds of shootings. Was to go through my routine. Although, I would rather have not, just sort of sat down. And the community's responding really beautifully. There were a ton of vigils and services across the city yesterday. Thousands and thousands of people participated in public gatherings and remembrances. So you come together as a community, but at the end of the day, I guess I'm angry because we shouldn't have to do this.
Right. And one of the things too that the governor and I don't know if you heard this, but he's going to have police stationed at 30 schools, and I guess public schools or all the schools. But again, for me, I get kind of triggered. I was at the fair, and at night I see these M16s and people that don't look like police running around with those. I get triggered on that, and I get triggered from Standing Rock, from all the violence that's happened in our communities. So that might be the answer, but no, it's not the answer. I don't know.
Right. Well, and just the presence of those guns, and first off, we shouldn't need that for our children to go to school, for our parents and children and teachers to feel safe. We shouldn't need that kind of an armed presence. That's just perverse, right? Mind-boggling. And then, as you expanded, things like what's happening in Washington State with the firefighters that were arrested literally as they were fighting the state's biggest wildfire of the year. 2 firefighters were arrested by ICE, people showing up with guns and taking them away literally while they're fighting a fire. And it boggles my mind. It's beyond it. I knew this administration was going to be bad. I knew this administration was going to move us toward fascism, but as it plays out, it's happening so quickly and so aggressively. And I don't know that anyone opposes an ethical removal of sort of criminal elements or whatever from an immigration perspective. But when ICE agents are going to places of work, places of worship, courts, and now literally to a fire, to individuals who are fighting a fire and starts arresting them, that isn't any kind of immigration enforcement. That's just fascism.
Well, we spent some time in Long Island, and reading today too that a lot of people, it's their season now is ending in Long Island, and all the people that work the fields and the yards and all that are going to be is ICE going to take them. They're really, I think the New York Times reported that today. What's interesting, Robert, we're going to wrap up this segment in about a minute or so. I'd like to talk a little bit because I was on a couple shows in Wisconsin, reached out to me. And one of the conversations came up was, here's a reason for Trump to bring the National Guard and the Army here into Minneapolis. And we can maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was one of the first responses for many people was, oh, this is just going to give him a reason, right? Yeah. And, it's not a real solution. It's not giving him a reason to work toward a real solution, but this, showy federalization of law enforcement, I expect that now. Yeah.
Hey, we're here with our friend Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here, a White Earth Ojibwe citizen, and we always have a nice conversation and sometimes a lot of fun, but today we're talking a little serious, and then I think maybe the last segment we can talk about what's happening with Native American Community Development Institute and the Avenue and brighten some things up, but we still have more to talk about. This is Native Roots Radio. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP, or visit snapconstruction.com.
Hi, it's Mitch, owner of Junk Masters. Spring's the perfect time to get your space back and clear out those unwanted items. The best part? Just show us what goes. We are local and independent, just like AM 950. We provide residential and commercial services. Our landfill diversion program includes donating, recycling, and leveraging waste to energy whenever possible. You don't have to worry about a thing. We do all the work for you. Contact us for a free quote. There's no obligation. Visit junkmastersmn.com to get started today.
I'm Rachel Schroman, owner of Schroman Law, and I believe you deserve information. Our firm offers free quarterly estate planning seminars at our office in St. Paul. At these seminars, you can learn the basics of estate planning from an attorney to help you determine which estate planning documents will meet your needs and goals in an efficient and cost-effective manner. You can learn more and register at our website, schromenlaw.com/events. That's SCHROMEN law.com/events.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. The Minnesota State Fair is packed with 12 days of fun with food, rides, and much, much more. And right in the middle of it all, you'll find Indigenous voices making an impact. Seat the common table for lessons in Indigenous food justice. Visit with Native authors and watch drum groups. Plus, stop by the Native Roots Trading Post back at the West End Market. That's the Minnesota State Fair through September 1st. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org.
This year, the magic is calling you like never before. Craft your own magic at the Wicked Wand Workshop and race for glory at the Ninja Warrior Challenge. Feast on hearty turkey legs and cheer on live combat jousts. There's something for everyone in our magical village. Bring your family, bring your friends, and create memories that will last through the ages. The Minnesota Renaissance Festival, weekends August 16th through September 28th. Don't miss the adventure. Get your tickets at renaissancefest.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 59. Friday sunny with a high near 78. And Saturday partly cloudy with a high near 77. Zero Res cleans carpet, tile, hardwood, rugs, upholstery, and air ducts using no harsh soaps or chemicals, and it's safe for pets. Right now they have their Labor Day sale where you can get 3 rooms Zero Resified for $119 plus $75 off your air duct cleaning. Visit ZeroResMinnesota.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Oh, this is Dallas Goldtooth, and you're listening to the Native Roots Radio. Hoka, hicha, wecha.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're with our friend Robert Lilligren, CEO and president of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and a White Earth citizen. I want to just read this. Kind of went past my social media too, Robert. As Republicans inevitably blame mental health and not the guns for yet another school shooting, kindly remind them that 205 of them voted against a bill to expand school-based mental health services. And so we have to remember these things because of all the rhetoric out there. The president, and right away Kristi Noem is saying things, and that's kind of just for me the red flag about, okay, we're a blue state or a city. Are they going to occupy us next? Is this going to be a reason to? Welcome back, Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And kind of a sad day here in Minneapolis in the Twin Cities, and I appreciate this opportunity to kind of process through some of this. And so I think it's, for me and for my perspective, it seems like it's getting harder and harder for people in positions of decision making, legislators, elected officials, to carry this message of avoiding the ultimate responsibility, right? And we're talking about shootings like this. It's the guns. It's the guns. It's the guns. And so we can say that our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families, and we can keep saying that. But I think it's getting harder and harder for legislators then to go and vote against things like you just talked about. Mental health services for young people, sensible gun control measures, and here there's kind of a gender vibe as well, right? And from what we know about the shooter, there was some gender issues. They may have been transgender. It's not 100% clear, and the media continues to refer to the shooter as he. The shooter took their own life at the end of all of this, right? And so I don't know, maybe we will never know what this was about. But so there's all this interesting dynamic tied up, and if support would have been there for a young Catholic transgender person, if support would have been there in sensible gun control, in mental health care for students, what would this have happened? Would there have been a different outcome? And every time this happens, Robert, I feel like, okay, this is the one. This is the one that changes the dialogue, that changes the debate. So let's see. It's hard to tell when our federal government is in such disarray. It's hard to tell what's going to be the response, and I suspect the response is going to be a militarized law enforcement presence here in the Twin Cities.
Do you think Governor Walz kind of preempted that, and by putting I think I just read here 14 Minnesota State Patrol troopers and 6 Department of Natural Resource officers to assist patrols focusing on schools and places of worship? Do you think that might have been preempted? When I first read it, I kind of thought that, but maybe not.
I think in part it is, and I appreciate the governor doing that. I think practically speaking, I don't know how much impact that's going to have on whether or not Trump decides to federalize our law enforcement here. I give Governor Walz credit for doing that. And I do believe it's a preemptive measure, but I don't know that it's going to stop it. And, when you hear what's coming out of the White House, there's the federalization of the Washington, D.C. police,
Right.
there's federalization of Los Angeles police, and now these threats of other states or cities mostly having their law enforcement federalized by the Trump administration. And so yes, I think Waltz was smart to do that, but I'm not sure that that's going to be the panacea or that's going to stop this. But I will note, I'm sure you've seen these statistics as well. These federal law enforcement agents are being sent into these cities and states that have far lower crime rates than these red states or red run cities. I mean, those are the violent ones per capita. They have, hundreds of times, the crime rates that some of the cities like Chicago, New York, Minneapolis, for that matter, have. And yet there's such a strong narrative that cities are unsafe. We need to do this in cities. And I think we all know what the foundational reason is, because cities, well, first off, tend to be, a lot of cities tend to be very progressive, democratic run, but they also tend to be much more culturally and racially diverse, right? So you can sit in your red state, predominantly white population and say, oh yeah, these cities are bad. They're bad. Well, they're not bad because they literally are less safe than your city. They tend to be more safe. They're bad in these people's thinking because they have brown people in them.
Right. Right. The governor said this tragedy brought devastation to a place that should be safe space for children to learn. I'm praying for our kids and teachers whose first week of school was marred by this horrific act of violence. Devastation. And again, we talked a little bit about that, Robert, where, everybody's going to be back to school after Labor Day.
Right. And, I've been reading these articles, how to assure your kids, how to talk to your kids about this event. You're a parent. I'm not a parent, but I don't know how I could give my kids assurance that they're going to be safe when these kinds of random acts of violence happen. And, they happen in schools, they happen in churches, in places of worship.
Right.
And we see that the places where you feel like you should be most safe. And
It's interesting too, Robert. I was watching the news, and one of the uncles of one of the students that were shot said that we put our kids into this Catholic parochial school thinking that they were safe instead of a city school. And, nowhere's safe when it comes to gun violence here in this country.
You're exactly right. It seems to be so random. There seems to be this whole stratum of our population that is just obsessed. This shooter, as it turns out, was obsessed with mass shootings, was obsessed with school shootings, harbored a lot of anger. This person was an alum of this school. Their parent, their mother worked there, and then, I don't, the closest connection I have, a friend of our family, a close connection to my husband's, had two nieces that were in the church. And they are an official at a Catholic school. And so when they heard about it, they just bolted over to Annunciation, where this shooting took place. And, and they privately expressed this concern, a practicing Catholic, an official at a Catholic school. And they said, they had to sit through trainings of Catholic school officials where they said things like, do not recognize any kind of gender difference in your students, do not recognize names, do not, they were they were told, do not give them support, right? And so this person, this friend of mine, this Catholic school official, blames the Catholic Church for part of that. What would have been different if this young student who had issues with gender would have been supported by the school, supported by the church, and they blame, this friend of mine blames the Catholic Church for this. If they had been support, if there had been love, if there had been counseling for the student when they were at the school, what might have been different?
Wow. That to me is a huge wow. I just so Robert, would it help? And again, trying to talk about solutions here, but we've gone through this over and over and over again, to reach out to your politicians and say enough's enough. And really, they do respond when it comes to letters and emails and phone calls.
Yeah. And they do. And I would encourage everyone to reach out to decision makers, policymakers, elected officials, and make their position known. I live in Minneapolis. It's a very progressive city. We have very progressive, for the most part, very progressive elected officials. So I'm confident that they understand that action needs to be taken. And from being a formal elected official, I know that you need to be able to demonstrate that kind of public support, right? And so if we flood our elected officials' offices with statements and things, then they have something to point to, right? Yeah, I'm representing a popularly held position of my constituents, and so yeah, that is important. And yeah, so I would urge listeners, if they're here, to do exactly what you just said: reach out to your elected officials. We have some elected officials that don't feel that action needs to be taken around sensible gun control or supporting mental health in schools, but they still need to hear from you.
Right. Exactly. And, if we end up with an election that's for real, instead of messed with or militarized and intimidated this next time around, I think we'll have people out there to be able to do that. Robert, we got a minute left here. I want to switch next segment about the great work Native American Community Development Institute's doing, and I wasn't able to make the market, and there's things coming up soon, and it would be great just to switch gears in a good way, in a positive way too.
I like switching to the positive, and also there's been a couple elections down in Iowa that I think are showing some interesting tide changes in the views of the electorate. So maybe we could touch on that too.
Absolutely. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're with our friend Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minneapolis and Twin Cities. Always great to talk with Robert and talk about things, what's happening. And again, we'll switch gears to a little more positivity, and we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. The Minnesota State Fair is packed with 12 days of fun with food, rides, and much, much more. And right in the middle of it all, you'll find Indigenous voices making an impact. Seat the common table for lessons in Indigenous food justice. Visit with Native authors and watch drum groups. Plus, stop by the Native Roots Trading Post back at the West End Market. That's the Minnesota State Fair through September 1st. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
On view at Minneapolis Institute of Art, artist Mary Sully was a visionary ahead of her time. Born on Standing Rock Reservation, she worked in near obscurity between the 1920s and 1940s, creating intricate, vividly colored drawings that blend Dakota heritage with modern life. Now on display at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, experience the first solo exhibition featuring Mary Sully's work, only at MIA until September 21st, and always free to visit. Learn more at artsmia.org.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and I want to be your next United States Senator, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are with our friend Robert Lilligren, who's really good friends with hopefully our next senator and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. It was great to hear that new bumper by her. I ran into her at the fair, and of course, pleaded with her to do this. No, I'm just kidding. She was all about it. It was great, and Robert, again. To honor my wife, I'd really like to talk about what you want to talk about in this segment, and I know there's a lot of positive things that are circling around as we speak.
There is a lot going on. It is great to hear from our whiter sister, my whiter sister, Peggy Flanagan. I'm thrilled about her race for U.S. Senator. I think she's doing great. I ran into her the same time I ran into you. It was very surprising. Just kind of ran into her at the Minnesota State Fair. I was there to see the grandstand show and to enjoy some of the fair, and I didn't expect to see either of you. So it was a real treat to see. And yeah, I think Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, Peggy, is just doing a great job on her campaign, and this would be a wonderful trajectory for her and for the people of Minnesota. I mean, few people have I ever seen who can listen to community concerns and then translate them into action through government. She's been a lieutenant governor, she was a state legislator, she's been a local school board member, and I've just been so impressed with her abilities in her career. So I look forward to when she is our state senator, a U.S. senator, and one of the few Native women to attain that office.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was at the fair and I ran into a Republican opponent of hers, and I went up to him right away. Royce White, I believe his name, and he had a American flag and a old Minnesota state flag up there. And I asked him why he had this racist flag up there, and we went at it for about 20 minutes. And he doesn't like Peggy, which is a good sign for us that they're
agree. I mean, it's been no Republican has won statewide office since I'm trying to remember, 2000, somewhere around the year 2000, our former Governor Pawlenty. So there's that, and this flag issue. My husband and I talk about this, So we used to have this flag, as you said, had racist imagery on it. It was bland, right? It was a blue background with a copy of our state seal in the middle of it, circular. It had, a settler with a gun and a native person in the background who looked like they were charging away on their horse, to get away, and so we changed it. There's a lovely process and everything, and we have this state flag that I'm much more satisfied with. It represents sort of the blue field of the water, the lighter blue of the sky, and then a star. And there's just been a lot of media press lately about the rejection of this flag, and so it's become kind of a far-right MAGA kind of position. Right. And I read this quote by someone who said, "Oh, that's a metro area flag. That's not a statewide flag," and so that's why they refuse to fly it. If you look at it, it looks very much like the Texas state flag, right? And very similar. And so it's I don't get that, why there's metro, which of course is code for liberal or progressive, right, and how we could have two such different perspectives here in our own state.
Well, I like the left-hand side. Looks like the state of Minnesota, kind of,
Right. It sort of describes, the shape of our state. It's a beautiful flag. So,
and I've talked to like Arvina Martin, who went through the process. They changed up the city flag of Madison, and she loves it because she went through that whole process and understood what makes a good flag.
Right. Yeah, there is right. So there is that. So we'll see what happens. You know, this is evidence of a very divided kind of culture, and we have, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan running for this office. We have our U.S. Congressperson Angie Craig running for this office as well. They're on the Democratic side, and I don't see anyone lining up on the Republican side that is going to be able to successfully mount a statewide campaign. And when you look to other states, Georgia, Iowa, for sure, just south of us, you know what's happening politically there. There was a special election to fill a state Senate seat where a Democrat won the seat by double digits, or won the seat in a district that Trump had won by double digits. I think he won it by 11%. And now that's shifted to Democrat. And then earlier, there was a special election to fill a seat where a Democrat won the seat in a district that Trump had won. And I'm kind of making this number up by like 30%. And a Democrat won. And so with those two victories in the Iowa legislature, it has broken the supermajority. And so that changes the dynamic in governance. And the legislature and the governor can't promote legislation, can't override legislation, right? They don't have a veto-proof majority anymore. And so I think that's very telling that these very, very, what you would call red districts, where Trump won by double digits, are now turning blue. And so what does that mean for 2024? And I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I am too. We just have to stay vigilant, and that's why for me it's important to have people like you and talking about real issues and reminding that Trump doesn't have a majority or a super majority. He has 30% of the vote, and of course we have a percentage that didn't vote, but he doesn't have a mandate. And don't kid yourself. And we can flip this over quick. And even though when a lot of people, including Wendy, is really down on what's going on here, and we have to stay vigilant.
Right. We do have to stay vigilant. And maybe just in these last minutes to shift to kind of what's going on in the cultural corridor, going on at NACDI, just within our All My Relations Arts Gallery, coming up on October 16th is a show called Matrilineal Memory. I'm really excited about this show. The artist is Michaela Schaefer. She's Hopi, and this is about sort of memory, emotion, cultural preservation. So I really encourage people to make plans to be there after October 16th. Another kind of big deal annual event that's coming up is our 4th annual Pickle-Off, we call it. It's a contest. It's about local food, local food preservation and things, but it's a great contest. It has a lot of community support. That's on September 25th at Four Sisters Farmers Market. So from 11 to 3, and encourage people to come down and participate in that. I'm going to be a judge. I've been a judge at every Pickle-Off, and that's exciting. My mom was a big pickler. And then,
I was asked to be a judge too, and I'll be the masked judge, so people don't know it's me.
Very good, very good. I like it. I can't wait to see your mask. And then one other kind of big deal thing here that I want to bring up is a show at the Walker Arts Center, which here in the Twin Cities is our premier contemporary arts museum, right? It's not a native museum, but there's going to be a major show of Deani Whitehawk. And Deani is a former director of All My Relations Arts Gallery, our gallery. She has a show that's called Love Language. And it opens October 18th at the Walker Arts Center. At All My Relations Arts, we'll be doing some co-programming around this show with the Walker Arts Center. But this is a big deal. And our little gallery, which you're very familiar with, I know, it's just tiny, right? But it has huge influence, and it's launched careers, national, international careers like Deani Whitehawks. And so it's just great to see her sort of coming home to the Walker Arts Center. So I really encourage people to follow up and engage in that.
Wow, good words. And I definitely will be there. And I appreciate you, Robert. Thank you so much for talking me through this. It's really been, in talking to our listeners through this, it's really been a good show as always. And I appreciate you coming on and talking to our vast audience out there.
My pleasure, Robert. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio. We're going to be taking a few days off, and we'll be live again Tuesday. This is Native Roots Radio. Have a great, safe weekend out there, and really be safe. And thank you so much for being on.
You go on, my man.